and I'm going to be talking to myself for a bit here. Hopefully some of you guys get online and watch this, but what I want to be doing is just kind of going through Blender. So this is not going to be relevant to everyone. If you're doing a website, if you're doing a database, this is not going to be relevant to you. You can kind of tune out of this, and I'll talk a little bit more about those other things in another video. But this video here is for the guys that are doing the 3D modeling stuff. So that's what they've opted to do. And some of you are doing like the science fiction kind of modular dungeon system that you'll have to import into Unity or whatever. And this is kind of what I want to talk about. So what I saw some of you struggling with is trying to get things to line up. So for example, trying to get these things to line up on the corners. And the best way to do it is to actually use the grid in Blender to build everything modularly, because that's the idea behind it. Don't just guess, actually build things modularly. So if I do this, I can lay things out top-down view, and then I can see how that works. If I duplicate that, move it to there, duplicate that one, move it over to there, and then if I put it into the preview mode, you can see, well, it's not a very nice preview because I haven't got any other lights anywhere. I've just got those ones at the top. But if I put it into this mode, you'll see. Okay, so I've got those previews there, and how did I make that bit in the middle? So that's what I'm going to be covering. How I did this, how I made the stuff in the middle, setting up that EV render as well. So I'll just create a new one here. The most important thing is to start with the cube and think about your scale. Every unit in here is about 1 meter in Unity or Godot. So I'm going to actually work with this here. So I'm going to scale this bit out to 2 and select the whole thing, scale along the Y by 2. Now you do that by keyboard. Don't try to get it exact using the measurement tools. You should know S scales, X and Y locked to the axis. You can type the number in. And so if I push 7 on the numpad, I'll go into top-down view, and I can see that is 4 units wide by 4 units long. It doesn't really matter about the height here. That's not important. I'm going to go in and delete these faces here. Delete those faces. And I need to make sure that the normals are correct, because currently this is the outside of the shape. This is the inside. And if I bring that into Unity or Godot, this won't render, only this will. But I actually want it the other way around. So very easy to do. Select these. I'm going to turn on the normals, which is this button up here, and then down the bottom here I can turn that on there, and I can turn those up. You can see that that's showing the direction that the normals are facing, and also the direction that they're facing, the angle that they're at. But I want to flip them. F3, flip normals, put them inside like that. So that means this is the side that's going to render in Unity or Godot. So from here, I'm getting an error that says unable to connect to chat, please try again later. I don't know if the stream is working. If it's not, I know it's recording it, so I'll just upload that later. But from here, what I've got top down here. Now I can easily duplicate this, Alt D, and I want to make sure that I actually have the snapping on here, so that go down there, rotate it by 90 degrees, and then you'll see right there, perfect join. Okay, this was something that I saw people in class struggling with, trying to get that perfect join there. But if you actually use the grid and build it modularly so that it does work on a grid system, then this won't be a problem. Now, how do I get this bit here to join? This is another issue. Okay, so what I saw some people doing was adding a new mesh and then kind of joining all these things up. And you could do it that way, but it's probably not the fastest way. The fastest way would actually be to duplicate this and move it to there, duplicate this one and move it to there. So I've got this kind of intersecting bit. I'm going to hide these two so we can just see this. So I've got this here. I'm actually going to delete that light. We've got this here. I'm going to join them together. Select them both. Control J to join them together. So that gives me this one shape. which is not very useful at the moment. What I need to do is go to Edit and Preferences and add in a tool called TinyCAD. TinyCAD Mesh Tools, and I'll tick that, and it will install these tools for me, which I'm going to need. So I select everything here in edit mode, right click, TinyCAD is at the top, and I want to X all, so intersect selected edges. What it's going to do is going to remove all faces, but it gives me a mesh where everywhere that intersects, if I put it in vertice mode, everywhere that intersects, I can now actually just go in and manually add the faces that I need. So if I do it for this side here, so you're kind of selecting 3 or 4 at a time, and build it up that way. Now I wish I hadn't actually deleted the previous video because I'd already done all of this. But the cool thing is, say I decide, well, I actually only need 3 exits off this one. I'll do that one in a sec. So I'll just build this up. It won't take too long. I'll add all these in, and then I'll add a light source after this. This video won't be too long. I just figured I would show you a quicker way to do some of the stuff that I've seen people kind of trialing and testing in class. Now that's the top done. The bottom is going to be the same, but I'm just going to actually do just one. I'll do the whole thing. Don't try to take shortcuts here. Whoops, I accidentally. That should be a quad. It doesn't matter that it's a try though. F. Oops. And I want to get these. Don't try to make those quads because they'll come out funny. F. Almost done. Probably a quicker way to do it, but okay. So now I've got this here and I've got these extra edges in there. They're actually invisible edges, which means I can go ahead and delete these edges along here, which are not actually doing anything. Edges. I can keep those edges in there, that's all good. So I'll go here, I'll unhide these, and you can see how that matches perfectly now. I've got those little hallways happening. I might want to model something that goes in the corner here that makes it look a little bit better, but for now, they look fine. But say I want to add a window here. I only want this to be a corner piece, and I want to add something over here. So I can make a duplicate of this. So what I might do is line these up. If I go into top-down view, kind of line them up, use this grid to line things up. I think I made a mistake in that one, but it's okay, it's not a problem. I'm going to make a duplicate of this, Shift D, move it across. So this is going to be my 2-corner one. So I'll go into there, and I'll select these edges. Can I select the ring cut? No, it doesn't let me. And I'll add a face to that. Why won't it let me face those? There we go. I've accidentally added too much there. Delete. Oops. I'll just undo that. Okay, so if I select the vertices, this one, this one, this one, this one, they should all be good. I can add a face there, then these 4. You want to try and work with quads. It's not a big deal if you're not though, because Blender will triangulate it, but it may not triangulate it the way you want it. Then I'm going to select this face and scale it, inset it. Now if this does not inset the way that you want, it's because your scale is off, and you'll have to go here, Object, Apply, Scale and Rotation. But I haven't needed to because I've done it properly. And then I might decide to extrude this in like that. Now what that will give me is this kind of thing here, which I could set this to a translucent material. I could have some stuff outside, like a space scene or an underwater scene or whatever. But it gives me a nice little window there. And I could repeat the same along here as well. And so now what I've got is well, there's one that's got 3 exits. So if I want to actually build something out of these, so I could grab this here, Alt D, and drag it down to here. Grab one of these, Alt D, drag it to there, drag it to there, and then I can quickly build up my scene, and it's all modular. So just by having these things here, and this is how you should be working. This is how I would expect you to be working if you're doing a modular kind of level design, modular asset pack. Of course, little individual things that might go on the floor or whatever, or individual like broken things, parts, doorways and that stuff, they would be separate. They don't necessarily have to fit this modular bit, but they should be able to fit these components. So you should think about making those things first, and then continuing from there. So if I go inside this here, and you can see that if I was to be walking through here, I could see there, and I could turn down that way or down that way, and so on. All right, so lighting. Next thing I want to cover, I've talked about that, I've talked about scaling, I've talked about checking normals. I will talk about UV unwrapping, but not today. I needed to do a video on that in a little while. And really you should just be kind of blocking this stuff out before getting all your textures sorted. But the Eevee renderer. So the Eevee renderer is really cool. So I'm going to do something with that. Notice that when I duplicate these, by the way, I'm using Alt D to duplicate. That means any changes I make to these ones will reflect on these as well. So having said that, let's add the Eevee renderer stuff in. So this is the Eevee renderer bit here, and it should be set to Eevee. Turn on ambient occlusion, turn on bloom, turn on screen space reflections. That's about all I think you need to fiddle around with. You can play around with this stuff later. I think turn on refraction as well. I did figure out how to get glass done. I might have to do another video on that. If Connor has a question about that, or anyone has a question about glass, again, let me know and I'll go through a video on getting that working, because it took me well, not too long. It just was a bit of a complex process and there were a few things you had to set up. But with this, I'm going to add in a light source. So I'm going to edit this one here. You'll notice it edits them all. And we'll edit this one. So I'll just zoom in on it. And I'm going to add a light source. So I'm going to add a cylinder as my light source. I don't need to have that many edges. I'm just going to have 5. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to scale it down, move it up, and then scale it along that y-axis. So in here I get a light that looks like that. I can probably delete some of these bits here, that's all right. So I need to actually add a material to this. So materials down here, the base material, I'll call it sci-fi wall. It's important that you name things in this. If you don't name things, at most you might not even get achieved. I think part of the thing is managing assets. So you need to be able to do this stuff. This stuff here, you don't need to call individual things. So if I look in here, or this was a cube, but it's obviously not a cube anymore. It's going to be a hallway. Okay, so as long as I'm naming the main things, it doesn't matter what these duplicates are, because the main things are what you're going to export. So hallway, naming those. I don't need to name every little component of it, but just the main kind of chunky bit. And then I'm going to assign this. L will select everything that's linked to it. Notice I didn't extrude this out. I just added a new shape in this object. I'm going to add a new material. And this is going to be, I'll call it light. And it's going to be an emission. All right, so now what I need to do is put it into this mode here, but I'm going to play around with scene lights and scene world. So the scene, I need to also assign this to that. Okay, so I assign that to that. The scene world is this bit here, and I'm going to turn the color down to black so there's no color. So what I see is just the light from this. And then I'm going to go back to materials and I can change the color of this light to something else. So if I want it to be a blue light, I want the strength of it to be really high or whatever, then that's what I'll get. Okay, now this in the middle here has no light on it, but it is reflecting light from the ones around it. Okay, so if I select nothing, it is reflecting light. I probably want to add a light source to that as well, because at the moment it's kind of boring how it doesn't reflect things very well. But I could also change this, so I could make it more metallic. So this is the wall material. I could change the specular of it, play around with how rough it is. So 0 roughness will mean it kind of actually reflects like glass. Turn the roughness up and it gets more kind of diffused. And you can play around with all those settings there. You don't want to put an emission on using the principled BSDF. I find that it's just quicker to use the emission light source there, and that will work. Okay, so that's kind of using the Eevee renderer just to test some things out. Of course, you can go into much more detail than what I've done here. This is bothering me, this edge. I think what I did was I made a face with 4 sides. So I might just go into there and add that face there. And yeah, that's better. Okay, so that's all good. I'm not sure who's watching because the chat doesn't seem to be working for me. If you have any questions, please ask me. Tomorrow I can't really do Godot stuff unless I know what the issue is. So if you email me through a question about Godot, I can make some examples, I can do some stuff with that. But I'm assuming that most people who are doing Godot probably haven't watched this video, so I might post a notice on the classroom about that one. If you have any questions about something specific in Blender, I can't check the chat. I'll just see if I can open up actual YouTube and see if it works for me. And if there's any questions in the chat here. Is there going to be a stream for Year 9? No, there won't be. But I am posting videos for Year 9. And Keegan, there will be, not today. No, there won't be today. I'll do some stuff tomorrow. So if you have questions about the database stuff, then please ask me in an email, and I can get through and do something specific there. Okay. I might try to set the quality of these videos a bit higher. I'm just noticing it's a little bit kind of grainy on there. So hopefully the text was readable. But I'll finish up here, and feel free to email me any questions.